Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 57. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
And I have a déjà vu. We've done it before.
Oh, you're not back to those tricks again.
Not?
It's Dave's
Dave's
set him off,
unravelled everything.
Yes, I blame him as well.
Hi Pawel, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Euan?
I'm alright, I'm just looking at a pen, Just
So what you're saying
inspecting
is I'm better than you two?
I would not go that far. You may have a more jovial mood than us.
I think on quite a few scales, Pawel's probably better than us. But I mean, we're not taking any specific measure.
Which scales are these? this should be interesting.
Not like actually probably some of the your bathroom scales.
Yeah,
that is correct. That is correct.
You've gone literal. That's good. I like
that.
that.
That's fine.
Cycling his bike to our flat. He probably does that better than either of us do.
He does do that to
Can I just suggest we should come up with a spin-off podcast about things Pawel is better than?
Things Pawel is better than, or things Pawel is better
I think
at.
that would be better as an app.
So you can always
scan
carry it
things
with
in
you.
and then it rates it against the Pawel.
Oh God!
I wonder what Google autocomplete would come up for if I typed in "Is Pawel better than?" Let's have a look.
Oh my God! We're not doing it, are we?
Well, you get the question,
than...
but then you have to put in the statement and see what it says.
Okay.
No, it comes up with nothing.
That's good.
Nothing.
That's good. Is Pawel better than nothing? Well, I think the answer is yes.
There you go.
Fantastic.
That's what you want to be called?
I'm richer now. This knowledge completes me.
Ooh, Pawel's blog.
Also, we could talk about some video games.
No, we could read your blog though.
we could just read your blog. I can only assume that this is your blog
because it's a Pawel's blog. Yeah, I know.
There's also an Urban Dictionary entry for just Pawel. I don't know.
Holy shit! Go for it.
I don't know if I want it.
No. We have to know it. Just Pawel. I need to know this.
Okay. An extremely attractive Polish young man has looks to kill and a brain that's smarter than most. Most people wish to be as fresh as Pawel.
Nice.
Are you kidding me?
No.
That is just...
The next one is just... The next definition is just filthy. Oh no, here we go. Pawel, a lazy individual who makes no discernible contribution to society. A sloth. That's better. Let's go with that one.
I'm sceptical about that site. Like if three people can just go into a word and put in three completely different definitions.
Oh no, there's multiple. Here we go, Pawel. A small ferret-like animal which feeds on interest and turns into pure unbridled boredom. Never has anyone made people lose the will to live quicker than he.
Well.
Now we're getting somewhere.
It's getting darker.
That one may be inspired by our podcast, I wonder.
Oh no.
No, that's that. Yeah, I think you might be onto something.
Pawel, a Polish stallion of a man that everyone wants to be like, even if they don't know it yet.
Who's coming up with this?
I'm with you, and I don't trust this thing.
I don't see the point of just a load of people just going on and putting and just typing in descriptions of various Pawels they've met. Doesn't make for a definition of anything, does it?
I get the feeling that some of those definitions have been written by Pawels themselves. What do you think?
Well, yeah, you can tell
there's
which
some
ones.
narcissism going on here.
Is it the stallion comments?
Yeah.
If you're asking whether it's a Pawel thing to be narcissistic,
actually,
then...
I wrote the stallion one.
Oh, right.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
You knew Pawel would like being described as a
I'll
stallion.
do a Chris sometime.
What are you doing later? Hey, what were we talking about? Video games. That was one of your weirder introductions.
All right.
We like a good introduction.
No, I think this one works. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Unnecessary.
It tells you all about games, anyway.
It does. It does. So this week we're doing video games.
Apparently,
this is a video games week. We've got a few things to talk about.
It was a smooth transition. I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We can go back to talking about Pawels if you like.
No. So some video games. Let's do that.
Let's do some video games then. We'll just get straight into this then.
Straight into it.
First up, so I'd been playing Neon Chrome. I talked about that in the last video games episode, which is a roguelike. It's a sci-fi, but it's a cyberpunk top-down shooter roguelike thing. All those words that you like, people go mad for. When I say people, I mean me and Pawel. How did you get on with it, Pawel?
I'm quite enjoying it. I must say, yes. I haven't had that much time to play, and I've been jumping between a couple different games, but Neon Chrome is definitely very cyberpunkish, which is a good thing. It's roguelite, isn't it?
It's roguelite.
Yeah. Which, to some, is a good thing. I'm probably not as... I don't know, was there any of those definitions of Pawel's, was there anything about hardcore stuff? Because I find myself not to be a very hardcore rogue-like player.
I think that may have been in the one that I skipped over.
Okay, that's probably
not safe
a good
for work.
thing. Yes. So, to me, a roguelite is actually something that's not intimidating enough. I'm just not going to throw it away simply because it frustrates me. And Neon Chrome is one of those games that I sit down for half an hour to just shoot at things and dodge things.
Okay.
It's pleasant.
Had you got very far through it?
I've gotten further along, so yes, but
Killed a couple of bosses.
Yeah.
I actually got all the way to the end and killed the Overseer.
Nice.
Who's the guy, and then it does a typically cyberpunk thing, which I won't ruin for you. But then
you become an Overseer.
I said I wasn't going to ruin it. Well, I suppose I haven't. You've done it for me. So yes, you then become the Overseer version 2.0, and then you start the game again.
Nice.
And then you put the Judge Dredd helmet on.
Pretty much. It does have a slight feel of that, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, so that's one of the roguelikes I've been playing. But I played another one called Unexplored, which I briefly mentioned that I had been playing, and I said I was going to talk about it, so here we go. So this is much more roguelike than Neon Chrome. Totally different, sort of the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of settings. It's a fantasy setting, but a really weird one because you play as what seems to be like a female honey monster from the Sugar Puffs box. It's just weird, like a one-eyed honey monster. It looks almost identical. I'm wondering if this was an actual direct influence, if they just went, wouldn't it be funny if there was a honey monster character, or if this was just an accident.
A honey cyclops.
Yeah.
Is that the idea?
The way I want to think about it is, given that this is also a top-down thing, and you want to come up with something stylish without trying for it to look realistic, you come up with something that you can tell where it's looking at, which direction it's looking at. You only need one eye for that, yeah?
You do?
Yeah.
It's almost as if it's a budget-saving, simple design.
But this
they
is the thing.
They don't have to draw two eyes.
The graphics in the game are actually very well polished.
They're very nice.
Yeah, so it's not like they had to cut corners or anything. It was a choice.
Comic-y, I would say. Yeah. Sort of solid colours, not like massive bits of detail and shading and stuff like that. But it still looks really good.
And it plays very fluid.
Yes, and like you say, it's a top-down. You're basically exploring through levels of a dungeon. It's got the classic thing, you've got to get to the bottom of the dungeon, retrieve the Amulet of Yendor, and then get your way back to the top of the dungeon, which I haven't managed to do yet, because this game is fucking hard. But it's hard because it is much more roguelike than Neon Chrome is, because Neon Chrome tends to have... It's a bit more balanced as you're going through the levels.
Neon Chrome doesn't punish you as such.
It doesn't overwhelm you. The Neon Chrome is challenging.
Yeah, it can be.
Definitely challenging. You will die a lot.
Like a bullet storm thing.
Yeah, but you feel like if you die in Neon Chrome, it's because you played the level badly. Whereas if you die in Unexplored, it could just be because the level was randomly generated in a way that made it really difficult for you.
Okay.
Having said that, the actual level design in it, even though it's randomly generated, is spot on. And the room design and everything. And there's obviously, it does that thing where there are certain room styles and stuff like that, and they might have different things in them. But it's the way that all the sort of levels and stuff are all laid out and things like that, it feels like somebody made them, which is the goal when you're making a roguelike game. You want it to feel like somebody actually designed the level that you're playing, rather than it having been randomly generated. And that's what this game feels like, and I'm really impressed by it. And they have made, since I started playing it, it's in full release. It's not like an early access thing or anything like that. They have updated it since the full release to make the levels much more sort of polished and generated in a sort of more realistic way, sort of thing. The game is, despite how difficult it is, it's quite sort of charming. It does have a lot of charm to it. I mean, just playing as that honey monster. You start the game as just like a sort of normal adventure. It does have different classes in it, but you have to unlock them as you play through. And essentially, you're just using your, it's classic just keyboard keys and clicking your mouse and stuff to use your weapons, whatever you've got equipped. You start the game as an adventurer who's just got a short sword and a dagger, and that's pretty much it.
So there's going to be other weapons.
Yeah, you find other weapons as you go through. And this game, I really like the way that this game does things. You've got limited inventory space. It feels like you've got a lot, but then as you start playing through the game, you start to realise that it's not that much. But you will find other like weapons and armour and all sorts of things, and it does a very roguelike thing where if you pick up a magical item, the chances are you're not going to be able to identify it as soon as you pick it up. But, if you pick up a piece of armour, if you wear it for 10 minutes or something like that, it will get identified, but it could be cursed. And, classic, old school video game stuff. Once a cursed thing, you equip it, you cannot take that thing back off again. And you have to wear that until you can find a way of removing that curse. And there are ways of doing stuff like that. And the game's just like, it's got so much stuff in it for, like, every time I play this game, I feel like I discover something new about it. Like, you're playing through and you're thinking, okay, this is just running about, hitting the enemies, and there's a wide variety of enemies in this as well.
Okay, because I've just seen spiders.
Yeah, when you played it briefly, you saw a lot of spiders.
Because I've just done one dungeon.
And one thing I'll say is that when they generate the levels tend to be themed as well. So like if you go into a place that's like full of webs and stuff, yes, that level's going to have a lot of spiders in it. You might find other things. You find, like, it's got your classic things, it's got goblins and orcs and kobolds and rats and all sorts of weird stuff going on, lizards and like skeletons and all sorts of things. There's a good variety of enemies in it, and they all require different tactics to beat them.
Are they all one-eyed?
They're not, as far as I'm aware. I don't think they are. Maybe they are, actually. I just didn't notice because I'm too busy as soon as I see an enemy
surviving. Oh, that's what I was doing with those spiders.
Oh yeah, actually, the location name, like the locations themselves, they all have like different names which are all randomly generated. You tend to find that they tend to be themed like the actual level is. So you've got stuff like, I've written some examples down here. You've got like the Catacombs of Stone. So you've got an idea of what that level's going to be like. You've got the Tombs of the Morrow, the Godglades of Whispers. That was one of my favourites.
Oh yes.
The Sheltered Stormground.
Oh, lovely.
You've got levels that are like totally like caverns and stuff, and you have to actually find little things that will let you levitate across big gaps and stuff like that, and it's all properly designed so that nothing's impossible. You can find your way around every level in some way or another. Some of it's little puzzly bits. There's levers that you can press and stuff that'll open certain doors, but you'll pull a lever, you don't know which door it's going to open. You might find keys and stuff like that, but you can also do stuff like you've got there's lockpicks in the game, so if you come across a door that you can't find the key for, or it's like hidden behind 15 enemies or something like that you don't want to go and fight at that particular thing, you can try and just pick the lock on the door on some of them. And the whole game it's kind of achievement based, so it's a roguelike. When you die, okay, you're dead, and then you go back to the beginning of the game, you make a new character. You have the choice of playing through the exact same dungeon again, or you can
with a respawn, I'm assuming.
We start back at the beginning.
Okay.
With beginner's equipment. Or you can just get the game to randomly generate a new dungeon for you. Now, when I say it's achievement based, what that means is that every time you run through, you unlock stuff. But it doesn't just automatically give you a lot of that stuff. So, for example, if you discover 5 levels, so if you manage to get down 5 levels, you get to buy extra healing potions at the beginning of a run. And the only thing that you keep from one run to the other is your money. So any money that you've found, you will keep. Classic roguelike stuff. But there are other things, like if you pick up 48 arrows in one run, you unlock the archer class. if you pick a lock on a door, you unlock the rogue class, and they all have sort of different. They'll start with different equipment, and I think that's really the main difference. There are sort of skills in this game, but I haven't found they've made a huge difference.
So just with the sort of things for unlocking classes, is that something that you can find out in advance in the game?
Yes.
Right. Okay,
so when you die,
yeah.
it brings up a list of all the achievements that you can possibly get.
Oh, right, okay.
And
so
you can hover over those and see what they are. And that's when you sort of discover, oh, right, so if I do that, so maybe in the next run I'll entirely focus on doing that then, and see if I can get this thing and unlock that, so that I can, at the start of the next run, I might be able to buy, some random potions or something like that. Okay. There are, like I say, there are skills in this game, and it's stuff like, lock picking and stealth and all these kind of things. But at the moment, I haven't found that they make too much of a difference. You pretty much, if you start with your bog standard adventurer, you've got no points in anything. But you can pick up, magical rings that will give you bonuses and certain things, blah, blah, blah. You also have a strength skill, which determines what sort of weapons and armour you can equip, which is, another standard RPG roguelike style thing. One of the things is, like, if you start as a rogue, you've got much less strength, so you can't actually... You start the game with a couple of daggers, you can't actually equip anything much bigger than that at that point. But as you're going through the game, I found that one of the things is just trying to level up your strength as much as you can, and then getting bigger and better weapons and wearing bigger and heavier armour and stuff like that is, can make a big difference and makes the game more fun, because when you're swinging massive weapons around the place, that's hilarious.
It always is, I'm sure.
Now, everything, like I say, anything magical you pick up, and that's not just weapons and armour, but there's potions and scrolls as well. And there's like a fixed list of what sort of every potion does and every scroll does, but it's different in every game, if you see what I mean. So the different colours of potions will be different. Will do a different thing in every run through that you do. So you get things like you get your health potions, but you get things like maybe a scroll of identify, so that you can identify a magic item. You might get remove curse. You might get things like, there are strength potions, which are really handy because it just puts a point in your strength. And because they're unidentified, when you pick them up, you have, like, you can carry them around in your inventory, but you can drink them. Now, the problem is that if it's a bad potion, now the bad potions are things that you could throw at people. It might, explode, or they might, fill a room full of poisonous gas or something like that. And if you just take the risk and decide, I'm going to drink this potion and hope that it's something good, you could end up just blowing up. Which did happen to me in an early run through, which was hilarious. But so yeah, you can drink the poisonous gas potion and just poison yourself.
Fantastic!
It's hilarious. You can do the same with the scrolls as well. There are also like magical staffs and stuff like that fire fireballs and things. But I did pick up a magical staff that wasn't identified and tried to fire it at something, and the magical staff just spawned more enemies.
What?
Have you ever accidentally...
Oh, that's brilliant!
Have you ever accidentally healed enemies? By
going, no. Because I think the one thing that is identified at the beginning of the game is the healing potion.
It's easier to probably identify.
I think those are the only thing that you know.
They should have left that.
That would have been funny, yeah. That would have been funny. But they're just like... I mean, I could go on for ages about this game. That's the thing, even though it's a roguelike, because there's so many little things in it. Like, you can forge items. So if you've got a sword and you pick up a gem of some sort, you can forge the two things together, like an earth gem, and then it'll make a magical sword that will do, I don't know, extra damage or something like that.
That's plenty of content.
Yeah, there's shops dotted about in the dungeon, little goblin-like guys that are just running shops that you can buy things off. Got to be careful with that though, because if you die, if you spent all your money, the only thing you keep the next run is your money. So if you spend all your money on a run and then die, you start the next run with no money and none of that stuff that you bought.
So here is a question that probably often gets asked nowadays. Is there any multiplayer co-op thingy at all?
I don't think so. I wish there was, because I think this game would benefit from it.
Yeah.
Neon Chrome, certainly, when we played Neon Chrome, I thought that the experience in Neon Chrome was much improved when you're playing it with somebody else, I think. I mean, it's good as a single player game, but I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of biased in that direction because I really enjoy playing games with other people.
Because you don't get social anxiety.
I don't get social anxiety, no. No. Yes, like I'm saying about unexplored, just like there are things like, there's traps in the game, there's turrets in the game that'll try and shoot you, but you can, if you've got tools, you can run up and try and disarm these things. You find books littered about in the dungeon. You might find a room that's like a library that's full of books, and they'll give you tips on where certain things are in the game. Like there's a boss in level 4 that does this thing, but You know, and it's written in the style of a journal. It's just like, I found this guy, but if I drank this potion, I'd be able to beat him. You know.
So does it mean when you start your run, the game actually generates all of the dungeons if the library is able to give you hints about different levels?
Yeah. The whole thing gets generated at the start of as soon as you start the game.
That's
the whole
pretty cool.
Dungeon is generated.
Wow.
And all you're doing is going up and down flights of stairs to get into the different levels of the dungeon and stuff. And you need to get down to level 20. And like I say, get the Amulet of Yendor and get back out. I don't know what the story is around the Amulet of Yendor, but
who's Yendor?
You have it's just, you know, it's the thing. It's the MacGuffin.
It's Yendor.
Just general stuff that you're
general
looking for.
Yendor. So how far have you got so far then?
Not very far. I think the lowest I've gotten it is about level 7 or something. But it just, you know, like I say, because roguelikes are push your luck games, aren't they? They're just really like, how far can I go before I die?
Yeah.
You know, but it's addictive because of that, because it's just like you're challenging yourself, and you know, you do get a buzz out of, I've got to level 8 and I've killed a boss down here and now I'm fully equipped, I'm totally equipped up, and then you run into a room and just get slaughtered by something, you know. It's that type of game. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention, when I killed one of the mini bosses, it was a witch that I got locked in a room with when I fought her. I teleported into a room by accident.
Excellent.
You do a lot of things by accident in this game. Walked in this room, ended up killing her, but it turned out that you can steal her cape and her hat. Which just like it gives you like bonuses to certain things. I can't remember exactly what it did, but it was pretty cool, because obviously when you put these things on, your character's look changes. So I'm running about as a witch now.
Nice. No, that's very cool.
It's amazing fun. Another thing, if you want to hide in the shadows, there is stealth in this game. You can just go next to a wall and disappear, and then you can jump out and sneak attack people and stuff like that. It has all these things in it. Like I say, there's just so many things in this game for what it is. I say, you discover something new every time you play it, and it's I'm fucking loving it for a roguelike. It's one of the best roguelikes I've played. It's up there with Rogue Legacy for me.
Wow.
I mean, it's better than Neon Chrome for me. It's in terms
of
a single player experience. Yes.
I enjoy Neon Chrome for what it is, which is a cyberpunk game, but I've seen and explored, and it does look like in top of the class. And I think it's currently in Steam sale as well.
Oh well, there is a big Steam sale going on right now, isn't there? So it probably is.
But I mean, Rogue Legacy's no as much of a roguelike by the sounds of it as like this.
Rogue Legacy is it's a strange one. It's its own game, I think, but it just has a lot of rogue things in it.
Yeah, that's the general idea.
But it's a side-scrolling platformer, Rogue Legacy. But yeah, it's the same idea, because it's randomly generated, and you know, you are really just pushing your luck through that game to see how far you can get. Although I accidentally completed Rogue Legacy. I started a run with like a character, I think that is it you get extra money or something with this particular class, I can't remember, and ended up completing the game with that character. Just completely, well, I killed all the bosses and got to the very last guy, and it was just like, I might as well have a go at it. And that's the thing with rogues, stuff like that happens.
Yeah. That's why they put in those insanely hard, basically impossible bosses in the sort of final stage of Rogue Legacy, if you want to do those. And they're basically impossible.
Bosses. Yeah, oh god, those things, man.
There's got to be something like that in them.
I could not beat them. Like, they're so hard.
They're basically not doable.
Okay, right, I'm going to have to wrap that up there. I've talked at length about that game there. But yeah,
such is your love for it.
It's so good. It's just so good. So yeah, that's Unexplored, and that's by Ludo Motion. And yes, that is on Steam, if you want to find it on there.
Might just go for it.
Okay, let's move on then. Who wants to go next? Euan or Pawel?
Well, seeing as I haven't really played much in the last week or so, I was going to hark back, do a wee review, a re-review of a very old, a now quite old game. But it's in anticipation of a new Call of Cthulhu game coming out by a completely different designers. But it's interesting to look back at it on attempts to bring H.P. Lovecraft to other mediums than board games, really. Because generally board games is the only area where adaptation seems to be successful.
What? Surely you've forgotten about RPG.
I'm sorry. I should have said tabletop. That would have been more appropriate. But really, I mean, there's not.
I'm still insulted a bit.
There's not really any great Lovecraft-based films or TV shows. Nothing directly taken apart from Reanimator. But even that's just like very Lovecrafty. But anyway, this is the Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth, which came out in 2005. I played it on the Xbox. I don't know if it was available in other...
It was on PC.
It was on PC as well, but it wasn't on PlayStation.
I remember playing it on PC briefly and being terrified.
It's an interesting game. It basically cobbles together a story out of various things from the sort of H.P. Lovecraft mythos. Essentially, it's a Shadow over Innsmouth, but then with Dagon and other weird, like
things.
More like culty kind of stuff. But it ties it all together because it's all sort of sea based. And it does. There's a sequence at the start of the game that basically you play through a part of Shadow over Innsmouth, and it basically follows what the character does in the book, where they're just running from the town that's after them and just like panicking and locking doors and shoving things in front of doors. I mean, essentially what it is a first person shooter that goes through all these different stories, and you play. I can't remember the name of the character at all. He's just a made up character that's slotted into the universe. He's not anyone from any of the books, from what I remember.
Sorry, I only played it very briefly. Was it really a shooter game?
Well, this is the thing about it. It was first person.
I think there was elements of shooting in it.
Oh yeah,
it was much more of a...
I mean, you
almost
could
like
pretty much get through
a detective noir type thing, innit?
Aye. Well, this is the thing. I mean, we were noticing before, we were sort of looking back at it, it's made by Bethesda.
Yeah.
And
well, it was published by them.
By them, yeah. So, I mean, the actual creators, Y2K, went out of business, so hence they're not involved in any of the new stuff.
No, sorry, it's Head First.
Head First, but they, right, okay. I mean, originally, Dark Corners of the Earth was conceived as the first of a sort of series of games that would be Call of Cthulhu and then sort of a subtitle. And yeah, your character in it is kind of sort of involved in all the kind of weird mythos stuff, because at the start of the game there's this intro bit where you go into like some cultists are in this like stately home, and you sort of break in and get various bits of evidence, and then eventually you sort of get into the basement and something weird's going on there, and then these crazy alien interdimensional beings come and mess with your mind. The next thing you know, you're in an asylum. Classic sort of Lovecraft stuff. Go a bit mental. And then you get broken out of there and then sent off to Innsmouth to investigate a murder. And you get to Innsmouth, everyone's very suspicious of you and all this sort of stuff. And you then sort of have to escape from, later that night, escape from your hotel after you're sort of attacked by all of the locals, who all have a weird sort of fishiness to them. And yeah, there's like, mechanically, it incorporates a lot of like ideas that you have to, you get like injured in specific ways if you get attacked, and you have to like heal it. That interface isn't that well thought out, because essentially you get different types of injuries, but there's like there is like a button to cure
everything.
Yeah, as long as you've got the item to do it.
That's kind of weird, because there's a lot of the sort of Cthulhu or Lovecraft board games that do that as well.
Yeah,
it's like you don't just get hurt. It's like, you've hurt your leg, or
yeah. They tried to. I think with this game, it was really ambitious. They tried to do lots of different things with it,
right?
And I don't think they quite pulled it all off. But it is an interesting, a sort of failed experiment, I guess, because there was things like, there was like a sanity. There wasn't really a meter, because that's the thing. They tried to keep a lot of that obscure from you.
Thing?
Yeah. Things would cause you to, would have different effects on you. You'd get after images of things. You would get, if you were, there were certain things you just couldn't look directly at.
Yeah, I remember that.
It would just be, and it was like in later stages of the game where things are getting really crazy, and you broke into some like underwater, like god's temple, all these cultists and things like that, and like things that are clearly not human are some of these cultists. You're trying to sort of take them on in combat at points, or just sneak by them, whichever way, but basically like if they're in the room, you're already like, your character just starts like breathing heavier and kind of swaying, and it's difficult to aim. If you look directly at some of these things, your vision will just go completely blurry. You will not know where you are. I did get to a point in this game, and it only happened once, never worked out how to do it again, was that your character just pulls out a gun, blows their brains out. right there and then. And I
think I've seen like a video of that happening.
Yeah, and it wasn't something that would regularly happen. But if you got yourself into a certain situation, then you could just end up killing yourself basically. And it was there was a lot of like.
But I think that's good because that's very Lovecraftian.
Oh, totally. And it wasn't based on like a meter that there was no you couldn't tell what would be doing it. And that's the sort of thing that kind of made the game really interesting, that they tried to do these things. Just unfortunately, there were a lot of bugs and bits of the game that were sort of fundamentally kind of broken. And I remember this whole bit with, you were supposed to get on some kind of, I don't know if it was like a minecart thing or something. It was in a kind of industrial zone. You're supposed to get into this, I guess like a coal cart or something like that.
Yeah. And
something was wrong with like the clipping in the room, and you couldn't actually like get into it. I spent an entire. We worked out because we've been through everywhere. It's like, okay, this is obviously, you can see that something's meant to be done with this, and I think we somehow managed to break the game to get into the thing to carry it on. It was.
It's one of these things where you have to stand on a very specific point.
To
do the thing.
I think it was, and it just like we just couldn't get it to work.
Couldn't figure it out.
Oh, it was horrendous.
I think that was one of the big criticisms of this game. What I remember was just the amount of bugs that just broke it.
There were a lot of problems, but again, I think that's just the consequence of a smaller studio trying to do such an ambitious game, where they were trying to bring in all these sort of different ideas to it. And it did look really good as well, like the kind of murkiness. It was like genuinely quite scary at points. There was things you would see, because you'd be having to like run through rooms and stuff like that. There were certain things that, like, images that I still have in my mind of like thinking about that game. It's like, what was that? What did I see in the corner of that room that as I was walking through? Like, there's one bit where you're genuinely like, you're running through all these rooms, and like there's like this just completely pale figure on a bed just writhing about and screaming, but I literally only got like a couple of seconds to look at it, because it's like, well, I don't have time, I've got to run or I'm going to die. Yeah, it was a cool game. And I have a lot of time for it. It would be nice if somebody would do like a remaster or something like that. Somebody give it a bit of love and re-release it on Steam.
It does sound good, but I think whatever they're making now will be quite different.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I don't know too much about this new game.
Which is
probably
good.
You're not going to do an all-out shooter with a HP Lovecraft game.
It
doesn't make any sense.
No.
But
it's going to be.
I think either with Tank.
Yeah. It'd be like Duke Nukem 3D or something.
Yeah, exactly. Aye. But yeah, the new game is just called Call of Cthulhu, the official video game.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like more like one of these sort of episodic walking simulator sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be episodic. I think it's going to be a full release, a proper game.
Okay.
But it's definitely going to be. I'm assuming it's going to be first person, just detective.
Right.
Stuff. Yeah, I think so.
Oh well.
I'm just I'm doing my usual thing of Wikipedia research.
That's exactly what you need.
So the makers apparently revealed that the game would be a semi-open world investigative RPG with elements of stealth and psychological horror, which sounds like a whole lot of fun.
Sounds interesting, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I imagine it'd be a very polished game, but I do have I've got a lot of fondness for this old beast.
Yeah,
from back in the day.
See, I remember because I played it on the PC. It was one of those things where, like, I think it kept crashing at a certain point. I think that's why I stopped playing it, because it just got really irritating.
Well, I think even on the Xbox it had horrendous loading times.
I wanted to play it. Like, I wanted to enjoy it, and because I could see that it was trying to do something good.
Yeah.
And I didn't get very far with it at all. I remember being inside a house, and I think it was like the first part of the game or something like that.
Aye. Well, that bit
staring at something on a wall and the whole screen just going.
Yeah. Well, even that bit at the start, you have no. It's like you don't have weapons or anything like that. You're literally just going about checking things out, investigating things, reading things, and it is still really gripping, because you're just you have no idea what's going to be around the next corner, and things do start affecting his mind during even that sequence. So, yeah, it's. I don't know. I was just think better like a spectacular failure than like a polished kind of
a polished turd.
A polished turd. Exactly.
Do we know if it's ever been properly patched up and made better?
Possibly on the PC. I think the Xbox version's lost to the.
Remind me the title, because it sounds like something I'd very much like to try
Dark
this evening.
Corners of the Earth. Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth. I would expect there's still a working PC version out there.
Oh yeah, you'll be able to find one.
Cool.
Pawel has the goods.
I'm sure this is one of the definitions. Yeah. Pawel has the goods.
that's straight down there. It's just Pawel's got the goods.
Okay, so that's Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth. That's by Headfirst Productions, who went out of business, and published by Bethesda Softworks. Okay, Pawel, your turn to speak.
Oh, yes.
What have you been playing?
I have been recently playing a game that's been around for quite some time, although not as long as Euan's game. The Company of Heroes 2, which has been released in 2013. Now, one of our fairly, I'm going to say, partially loyal listeners has recently mentioned that podcast is shit if nobody ever mentions the Zerg Rush in it, because apparently video gaming to some people is all about the Zerg Rush, and because
video gaming to some people is just all about easy kind of easy references and memes.
Yeah. So we don't often talk about real-time strategy on our podcast for some bizarre reason, because I actually play that fairly frequently. So I figured that if we were to talk about RTS for a bit, then Company of Heroes 2 is a good game to talk about. Certainly not as beloved as the original Company of Heroes, but still, in my opinion, a really good one. If any of you people have played like Dawn of War and stuff like this, to be fair, most of real-time strategies made by Relic, then you get what it is, which is obviously with a top-down view like any strategy games, with units consisting of several characters pretty much just running around the battlefield and shooting at each other. I think the trademark mechanic used in this particular brand of RTSs is the command point, I suppose, overtaking and upkeeping. So instead of building a lot of structures or the whole base mechanics that you'll find in RTSs like Warcraft or Starcraft or games like this, Relic RTSs tend to be, especially during the campaign play, they tend to be quite focused on the storyline and maybe not so much on economy. So instead, once your troops secure a command point here or there, that's just more resources flowing into, I suppose, your coffers every second or whatever the time unit is. And that's all there is to it as far as resource management comes. And you produce your units as you go. And the game is essentially all about positioning your units or moving them about the battlefield, finding your cover, and shooting at others. Company of Heroes 2 has got 2 campaigns, although the second one I think has only been added with a DLC. And that campaign I really enjoyed it.
With the DLC.
It's a Soviet campaign. You start in Stalingrad, defending it from the fascisti, they call them, and then you go through the entire pretty much second part of World War II until your forces reach the Reichstag, and it's got something. I don't know. It's. I've attempted an American campaign after that, in the Ardennes, however you pronounce that word. Yeah. It just doesn't. If you play Yankees, you have a lot of resources behind you. You have the whole huge machine of war. You can get your parachuters everywhere. I don't know. It just feels like you're rolling into Europe for an easy win. Whereas the Soviet campaign is struggling for survival, is sending those Zerg rush of under-equipped Soviet soldiers who just die at the Nazi machine guns. It has a very visceral feeling to it, and somehow that makes you sympathize with those with those soldiers being pointlessly killed by either enemy forces or by your own, because you have to retreat if you're being killed off. So when you're retreating, your commissar is waiting there for you, and if you retreat, you're a traitor, so you're being shot anyway. It's a very grim campaign, and because the game has a fairly nice for an RTS fairly nice graphics, you're treated with these half destroyed and razed Polish or Russian cities with people pretty much lined up against the wall and clearly shot against the wall. Graphics like this, scenes like this.
So this is a really cheerful game, is what you're saying?
I'm saying, really, I was surprised by the amount of storytelling in a single-player campaign, and I quite enjoyed it. It's done from a perspective of a Russian officer who has pretty much betrayed the motherland by being a little bit more cheerful than the motherland generally likes.
No, you can't do that.
Exactly. So, he's to be executed, and he's just before his execution, he tells his story and the story of his obviously heroic troops to his commanding officer, and through I think there's 14 missions you play in the Soviet campaign. You go through a lot of different theaters of war, and obviously through quite a bit of World War II history. Now, I should probably say that quite a lot of RTS is mostly about making whatever faction you play feel unique and different from other factions. Not many games focus on it as much as RTSs do. If you play StarCraft, you'll know that your whatever Terran forces, Zerg forces, or whatever Protoss forces feel very differently from one another. It's probably, I actually expected sort of that Soviet forces would feel different from German or American forces, but I didn't expect it to be that well presented in the game. Whatever fresh conscripts you get in this game, whatever tanks you're actually able to put on the battlefield, just have a specific, just feel, I've as a kid, and obviously growing up in Poland, I've watched quite a lot of wartime films about the heroic Russian saviors and things like this. So I was quite nostalgic playing this game, I must say. And in some mission, you're actually you've got Polish whatever resistance and freedom fighters and things like this who are helping out the Russians, which is historically true, and then are getting, once you've completed successfully the mission, they all get executed anyway. And there's just, I don't know, I mean, it's horrific, but...
So are you saying that, so you're playing as the Soviets, so you're saying that you're basically just throwing waves of weak troops at a
Zerg Rush. You're playing against the Germans. The Germans might be obviously suffering its winter, and as the game progresses, they are in retreat. But you know what? Whatever tanks Germans have, that's pretty much just like a level boss.
Right.
It's you can have 3 or 4 tanks, and you're pretty much accepting that 3 of them are gonna get blown up. You can have elite German infantry somewhere there, and you know that you're gonna have to just muster up like 20 Russian lads and send them over to die. It's a cheerful game, but really well done.
I'm depressed.
I know, this game does that to you.
But it's very accurate in its
it's very accurate, but it's just
it feels very accurate.
Having to look at it from that point of view and being forced to play through that, it's kind of like, obviously nothing compared to what actually happened.
And then you get to play the candy-ass American campaign, and they're all like, "Oh, we all got all the equipment we need."
That's the thing, because you play this campaign feeling, Jesus Christ, we're being slaughtered here. But as you slaughter your enemy, you realise you're the bad guy as well, which is obviously what historically you sort of are as well. So there's no...
Everyone's the bad guy.
Exactly, and in Soviet campaign is very nicely shown. And then you start the the American campaign, and suddenly you get these relaxed, well-rested and pretty optimistic, cracking jokes, guys from behind the ocean just rolling through French villages, suddenly getting, ambushed by the German forces, and I'm supposed to, like, feel for them. I've just been through a Soviet campaign, man.
Maybe that's the one to save for last.
Yeah. I think it's a prime example of what's really strong about Relic games as such. Maybe their newest Dawn of War outing, which I don't think was actually made by Relic, but it is a Dawn of War 3 game, has been slightly botched and not too well received, but in general there's
Dawn of War 3?
Yeah.
That was made by Relic.
Well, it is quite different from what we know, and maybe you have to have a specific place in your heart for arcadey games with simplified mechanics. But earlier Dawn of... I'm going to just compare Company of War 2 to Dawn of War 1 or 2.
Company Heroes.
Oh, thank you. Those. They're sort of the same. You either just play a human or not so much.
Okay.
I thank you. I quite enjoyed it, despite the fact that war is wrong.
Have you ever tried to, like...
Not do war. I'm Polish, man. War is all around me.
No.
Yeah.
You've tried to not do war as a Polish
constantly
guy.
under siege in Poland.
Yeah, you know what? It might be 21st century, but in Poland it's really not.
What about trying to take over a fully developed base and Command and Conquer with nothing but riflemen? You ever tried that?
Command and Conquer. That's quite a dated line, isn't it? I've played a bit.
Best.
Tiberian Sun, then. Have you ever tried to do it in Tiberian Sun?
Red Alert.
Yeah, have you ever tried to do it in Red Alert 2?
Red Alert. I actually play Red Alert just for cutscenes.
Red Alert is the best.
Spice!
We're back to that again.
Spice!
Well, let me tell you, I don't know how many riflemen it takes to take out a fully upgraded base in any Command and Conquer game. Because I've never been able to do it. And I've gotten into the several hundreds of riflemen.
Okay.
So many hours of my childhood wasted in Command and Conquer. I say wasted, I loved it.
Ah.
Okay, that's Company Heroes 2. That's by, as Pawel says, Relic Entertainment, published by Sega on Microsoft Windows, released in 2013, although Feral Interactive did an OS X and Linux version in 2015.
And this is also where Adrens was released, because I don't think Americans wanted to play the Soviet campaign.
You think so?
Well, the timing is slightly curious, isn't it? Because the DLC was released at the same time as the American version of the game.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, there you go. Okay, so we've got we've got time. Why not? Let's talk quickly about something I've been playing on the PS4.
About?
Yeah. So just. I don't know why I did this, but I was on the PlayStation Store and I'd heard, like, I was listening to another podcast actually. I'd heard somebody talking about this
sounds
game.
like a kind of excuses.
Yeah, I know. Imagine that. What a traitor. So I picked up Friday the 13th, the game.
There we go.
Which has been... It's had a lot of weird news stories about it in the gamer world because it's just like, you know, the bugs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, you know what? Forget about all of that. The game's actually quite fun. It's a survival horror thing, and it's one of these sort of one versus many things. So I'm pretty sure everybody, you may not have watched them, but you're familiar with the Friday the 13th movie series. So it's all about the Jason how's it? Voorhees? I've always had trouble with that name.
The dude in the hockey mask.
Yeah, the guy in the hockey mask. It's sort of very recognisable. Although what I didn't realise is that he's not actually in the very first film.
Is he not?
No, it's his mum, apparently.
Oh.
That's the killer in the very first film.
I've never seen any of those.
I've seen bits of them, but I've just never
of them.
watched them all the way through because it's just, it's cult horror films in it, and they're just amusing more than anything else.
Nah, you're not going to be scared by it.
In this game, it's a pretty good sort of, like tribute to those films, like, and then the sort of silliness of them. So like I say, it's one versus many. So one person's going to play as Jason, and I think there's up to 8 other people are going to play as camp counselors. Mm-hmm. So it's a sort of, the Friday the 13th thing, just teenagers at a camp thing, and then Jason turns up and starts killing people. So the idea is, if you're playing as Jason, you need to kill everybody. Now, if you're playing as one of the counselors, you need to escape in some manner. How you can escape depends on the map that you're playing on. There's I think 4 or 5 maps in the game,
right.
Possibly only 3 actually, I can't remember. But the ways that you can escape is by doing things like, it's a third person thing where you're running about and you're picking stuff up. So you might want to pick up, a fuel tank, and then go and fill up a car with it. Then you've got to find the battery for the car and also the keys. Once you do all of those things, you can escape. If you're in like a 4-seater car, you can pick up some of the other councillors and escape with them. So the whole idea is you're just trying to escape if you're a councillor.
Yeah.
You can also do things like, if you find the fuse for the phone box, you can go and phone the police, but then there's a timer starts, you have to stay alive until the police turn up and then get to the police. Now, the whole time this is happening, Jason's hunting you. And there's a mechanic when you're playing as Jason, and I'm really annoyed because I've never actually been able to play as Jason yet. Because there is a thing where you can sort of choose what you would prefer to play as, if you want to play as Jason or a councillor. But even if you set it to Jason, so many people in the game will have set it to Jason and it just randomly picks somebody. And I've not actually been able to play as yet. But he has a sense ability, so he can sense when people are making noise and stuff like that. So if you're running somewhere as a councillor, Jason can really hear that and he can really see where it's coming from if he's nearby, and he'll be able to get to you. It does a good job of like doing that sort of tense horror thing of just like seeing Jason swaggering up behind you, because you can change which Jason you want to play as you unlock levels of the game, sort of thing, because you get an experience meter and stuff. But most of the Jasons can't run, so he can only walk towards you, right? But he can teleport in that sort of horror movie style, when that they turn around and he's right there.
Is that like a special ability?
It's a special ability thing, and it's not something you can use all the time, but yeah, you can teleport, so you can just get to a point where you can see him swaggering along behind you, and you've turned the camera so you can see where he is, and you're running, and then he disappears, and you turn the camera around, and he's right in front of your face. And it does a good job of doing stuff like that. Like the mechanics of the game are set up quite well for that sort of, oh god, there he is.
It's quite interesting having like video game mechanics based entirely around like elements from old horror films.
Exactly, but that's what they've done. They've done a good job of that.
Yeah.
And Jason can kill you in a manner of different ways, and people will deliberately do things if they're playing as Jason to set up things so that you get killed in a specific manner.
No, nice.
Like, so like if there's a tree trunk nearby, he can slam you down on top of it and just snap your back. He's got, as you're playing and you're unlocking experience, you get these point things that you can spend, and you can unlock different ways of him killing you. And so like, you may like just crush your head, or you might just punch a hole through your body, or you'll just take his big axe thing and just split your skull open in all these different ways, and it's fucking brutal and gory and stuff. But it's like it's the way it should be. Classic horror film, and that's what happened in these things. Cool. And it was deliberately stupid, and it's like I say, it's a good tribute to all of that stuff. When you're playing as a councillor, you do have a fear thing going on, and there's different councillors you can play as. They have different stats. Some of them are some it's just like speed and stamina and stuff like that. You can run out of stamina when you're running. That's quite a big thing actually. So if you're trying to run away from Jason, you run out of stamina, he's going to catch you eventually. But they also have a thing where like they have a sort of like a resistance to fear.
Okay.
So if they become more scared, you're more likely to just randomly trip up when you're running and stuff like that. So it does those, like, again, that's another tribute to classic horror films. Running away, oh, you fall over, they're falling over, oh no, he's catching up. Doing all that stuff. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's just fun, and it's silly fun. If I've got complaints about it, there are bugs.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you about, like, in terms of, because I've watched various compilation videos, I've seen gameplay videos of it just being completely fucked, and then I was watching you play it, well, it doesn't seem that bad, and some of the ones I saw were things that were like, well, that to me would be, as long as it didn't affect the gameplay, would just be amusing, like people's faces going all weird and stuff like that.
It's bugs like that. They're not. Mostly they're not game-breaking bugs. I did get stuck inside a window at one point for a few seconds, which was kind of weird, and I thought, oh crap, he's just going to walk up and kill me now. But I mean, it did sort of fix itself. But there are some sort of silly things like that in it. But it's just, like I say, it's a bit of fun.
Because the other thing I was going to ask you about is just the what sort of price is it going for at the moment?
I can't actually remember how much I paid for it. That's a good question.
Just because the complaint I'd also seen for it, I think it was about it being charged at a sort of full game price, and obviously with the things that were wrong with it and what it was, they felt it was sort of shouldn't have been marketed as it was as a full game.
It doesn't really sound like a full game, because it's essentially an online game with just one mode.
Well, yeah, that's all it is. And I think it was about 30 quid or something like that. So yeah, it wasn't cheap, and it's probably not worth
But
30 quid, I'll be honest.
But then I suppose you've got a similar situation with Star Trek Bridge Command.
Bridge Crew.
Like, is that a full price?
I think it was, but I think the thing about Star Trek Bridge Crew is it's just infinitely replayable.
Yeah. But
it is a very similar situation.
Yeah, they're both it's a specific thing, but if you enjoy doing it, then you're going to get the value out of it.
I mean, you could argue, you're paying for the IP and it's VR and all that sort of stuff. I mean, you could make that argument, but yeah, you're probably right. It's probably not worth the full price for it. But yeah, the Friday the 13th, I wouldn't say. I paid 30 quid for it, and yeah, you probably should have got a bit more out of it for that. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. So maybe they'll add some free DLC or something like that. Who knows? Who knows where it's going to go?
I've just remembered the only Jason film that I've seen was the one where he's in space, and I don't remember anything about it. Like, you know these sequels they've all got.
No, there is one of your weird stories.
No, there's a real thing. There's a real thing. He's in space for whatever fucking reason. Some crew of sci-fi misfits go onto a ship. He's frozen on the ship for some reason. Then he becomes unfrozen and he goes around killing everyone. That's all. I mean, that's the rough outline of the story. Couldn't really tell you any specifics. It's one of those things you just watch and your brain doesn't even process it.
Wow. Marvellous.
Just quickly, one other sort of quick complaint that I have about the game is that the matchmaking thing in it is you wait for ages for a game sometimes, and it's pretty bad. And if one person's the host, and if they quit, the whole game just goes, and that's bullshit. In this day and age, that shouldn't be happening. That's going
to bury the game.
That shouldn't be happening. They need to do something about that. Whether they can or not, I don't know, but I don't know how you deal with that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's a bad thing.
Well, if it's an online only game, you've got a real problem there.
Yeah.
So how long is a match?
A match I mean, you can play through a match about 15-20 minutes. I can't remember. There is a timer on it. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's about that.
Okay.
I think if the timer runs out by the end of it, any counsellors that are still alive just automatically escape.
I see.
So it's all really down to Jason to kill the counsellors in this game.
Suppose.
Right, we're really going to have to wrap that up there, folks. So that's Friday the 13th, the game. That's by Ilphonic, published by Gun Media. And you can get that on Windows, PS4 and Xbox One. And it was released last month, May. Oh, sorry, that's 2 months ago now. This is July.
Oh my god!
Okay, right, we're really going to have to wrap up now, so we're just going to quickly give out all our internet stuff.
Be quick!
So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. That's all the large and necessary first player token. Our Twitter is at 1ST player token.
Once player token.
Thank you very much. We have a website. That's www.firstplayertoken.com. We have a Discord. You can join that at discord.me/firstplayertoken. That's FIRST again. We have a PSN community, PlayStation community, if you want to join us on there. My Twitch username is Unnecessary Chris. If you want to watch us sometimes playing board games, I've played a video game last week. Actually, ended up with a room full of people, which was kind of weird. I don't know how this happened, but I ended up with I think it got up to about 80 viewers at one point, which is a record for me.
Fair enough.
That's a record for me.
Yeah.
So
you're breaking
quite happy with that.
Breaking through the Twitch community.
You can email us, that's firstplayertoken@gmail.com, that's FIRST again, player token, and we are part of the Podnose network.
UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
Any news, Euan?
Variety of podcasts on various topics. There was a new one added this week, and I did not pay attention to what it was. I glanced at the Facebook thing, and then moved on with my day. But they were very proud to have them. Yeah.
So yeah, you can go to podnose.com and check out the network of podcasts.
Over 30 podcasts on a variety of topics, including ourselves, so go check them out.
Okay, so that's episode 57. We will be back next week with a board games episode. Don't know what we're going to talk about on that, actually, but we'll have to play some games this week and sort that one out.
Well, you might see some streaming off us at the weekend.
You could do. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, until then, thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.